currently the preschool teacher at Wiradjuri Preschool and Childcare here at the University of Canberra. I'm a Biripi man, and I grew up in Campbelltown in the western suburbs of Sydney before moving to Bathurst and getting involved with the Wiradjuri Lands Council and things during high school, and came to Canberra for uni, and yeah, been living here, teaching and loving every minute of it. Wiradjuri opened in the 70s and it was a lab school. So on either side of our centre we have one-way glass that we no longer use, but it was set up as a small-scale children's group where researchers would observe parents at the time with their children in the setting. In 1988 it became a cost recovery childcare, and through negotiations with the Wiradjuri Lands Council it was given the Wiradjuri name. The reason it did that was the Ngunnawal Centre, which is the tertiary education centre here at the University of Canberra, was already established, and so it was decided that with the Wiradjuri people and Wiradjuri country being so close to Canberra and also being the largest language group in Australia, that was the kind of natural progression. Now honey ants live under the ground, and you have to dig down deep to get them. There's so many avenues now that are currently being unexplored in terms of engaging with culture and engaging with the history of Australia, with young children especially, because it's very much seen as difficult or uncomfortable. I think if we do it the curriculum way, if we're able to successfully incorporate it rather than do the approach it from the older way of thinking where we do a unit on Aboriginal Australia, I think if there is some level of incorporation within the curriculum contextually, it removes some of that discomfort that can arise. I think it's a sign of good faith that educators and institutions are pursuing a more holistic and more balanced view of Aboriginal Australia, and of course Torres Strait Islanders. But it also then prepares the younger generation to be thinking from that foundation of balanced, and perhaps looking at Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples as people rather than Aboriginal people and Torres Strait Islander people, removing that otherness that can often arise. So we've found that it's permeated parts of our curriculum that we didn't necessarily intend for it. So, for example, we have a good number of our students who, when relating to a map of the world and relating to a map of Australia, they identify Canberra not only as the place that they live, but also Ngunnawal country. I think it's vitally important to maintain that level of interest in young children, and so the idea of reconciliation being too advanced or something to be pursued later on in an educational career is missing a vital point in the children's lives where we can highlight the difference without it necessarily being an othering process. Marambang, Ungalungalang, Wiradjuri children. The things that we do day to day and things that I feel all centres are capable of doing include things like recognising and acknowledging country and acknowledging the history of the place that we're on. First, can anyone tell me what country we're on?
Ngunnawal land.
We're on Ngunnawal land. I engage with the children in oral story tradition, and that's not necessarily learning traditional Dreamtime stories, that's actually co-constructing stories with children and utilising narrative to explore our environment and concepts that we might be exploring. He wasn't a person anymore, he was a chubby, furry, grey. That's also clear in our artwork. The techniques that I work with the children to develop in them draw from everything from the X-ray art of far north, Northern Territory, to the dot work of Central Desert, and that involves actually exploring artists' work rather than me sitting down with children and saying, we're going to do Aboriginal painting today and getting out the cotton bud and the acrylic paint. It's actually looking at the work of various artists. I mean, Albert Namatjira is a good one. We did do a period of time where we were working with watercolours and trying to not necessarily recreate Namatjira's work, but exploring the fact that Aboriginal art is artwork done by Aboriginal people. It's not dot painting, it's not X-ray art. So it really does speak to almost everything we do. Reconciliation for me is embracing our differences. Part of our music programming here at Wiradjuri every year since I started has been exploring the story of Vincent Lingiari and the Wave Hill Walkout through the music of Paul Kelly and Kev Carmody. So we teach the children the entirety of the song. We've presented it in a multimodal fashion. So there's a storybook that tells the story, and then Carmel will play the piano and we actually sing the song, and we've also played various versions of it. But the discussions arising from that have been probably some of the most enlightening in terms of my understandings of the way children see reconciliation. I think that their sense of identity is very strong, and saying that it's strong in the context of the country that we're on and the history that Canberra has and the history that Aboriginal people have in Australia.